In this lesson, we're going to take a look at some problems that involve making predictions using proportions. So if you take a look at the situation, it says a random sample was taken of 75 freshmen at the high school. Each of the freshmen took a 2-question survey, and the results are as follows. Which lunch do you prefer? And so you see the results in the table there. First lunch, 25 students preferred. Second lunch, 36 students preferred, and third lunch, 14 students preferred. Then the second question, what hour do you have the hardest time staying awake in? And then the results are in the table. So now we have a series of questions about the survey. So the first one is, what percentage of the sample preferred first lunch? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the table and we're going to find first lunch, and you can see that 25 students preferred first lunch. There were 75 students surveyed total. Now, in this problem, they actually give you the total. In some problems, you actually might have to add up all the numbers. So you would have to add 25 plus 36 plus 14. And when you do that, you see that the total is 75 students. So that means our bottom number here is 75. So what we're going to do is 25 divided by 75. And when you do that, you get 0.33 repeating on your calculator, which is the same as 33%. So 33% of the students preferred first lunch. All right, so number 2, if there are 295 students in the freshman class, predict how many of these 295 students would prefer first lunch. So to do this, what we're going to do is make a proportion. So we're going to do a fraction equals a fraction. Okay, so first of all, we're going to look at how many preferred first lunch. So 25 preferred first lunch out of 75 total. The freshman class has a total of 295 students in it, so that's going to go across from the bottom number, which represents the total in the sample. And then the number that prefers first lunch out of the whole population would be our x, so that's going to go on the top. So now from here, we're going to go ahead and just do the cross products. So we're going to do 25 times 295, which gives us 7,375. And then we're going to do 75 times x. Then finally, to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 75. So 7,375 divided by 75. And you end up getting 98.3 repeating equals x. So you would say approximately 93 students you would predict would prefer first lunch. Okay, so the next one says, what percentage of the sample prefers second lunch? So using a similar process, we're going to look at second lunch. 36 students preferred second lunch out of the total of 75 students in the survey. So 36 divided by 75 gives us 0.48, which is 48%. All right, number 4, based on this survey, predict how many freshmen would prefer second lunch. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to write our proportion. So for second lunch, there were 36 students out of the 75 surveyed that liked second lunch. And we're going to set that equal to, and the population they told us up here in this problem was 295 students. And we don't know how many like second lunch, so that's our x on top. All right, so now if we do the same process there and solve it using the cross products, we're going to do 36 times 295, and we get 10,620 equals 75x. So now to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 75. And we get x equals 141.6. So we would round that to 142 students, we would say, prefer first lunch. All right. Let's look at number 5. So number 5, what percentage of the sample feel that 6th hour is the hardest to stay awake in? So now we're going to go up and find sixth hour, and 20 students said that sixth hour is the hardest to stay awake in out of the 75 that were surveyed. So 20 divided by 75 gives us 0.266 repeating, which would round to about 27%, because you'd move the decimal 2 places. So you could say 26.6 repeating percent or 27%. All right, approximately how many freshmen do you predict feel the same way? So now if we want to make the prediction, when we make the prediction, again, that's when we set up our proportion. So the first ratio is from the survey. So we had 20 students that thought sixth hour was the most difficult out of the 75 that were surveyed. The total number of students was up here, 295 freshmen, and the total goes on the bottom, and then X is going to go on the top. All right, so now if we do the cross products, we have 20 times 295 gives us 5,900 equals, if we multiply the other diagonal, we get 75x. So finally, to solve this, you're going to divide both sides by 75. So 5,900 divided by 75 gives us 78.6 repeating, which we would say would be about 79 students. So we would predict 79 students think sixth hour is the most difficult to stay awake in. Okay, so then the last question asks us to predict how many students feel that first hour is the hardest to stay awake in. Okay, and I'm kind of running out of space at the bottom here, so I am going to just draw a line, and let's do this up here. So we're looking for how many freshmen feel that first hour is the most difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our proportion again, and we have to make our ratio for first hour. So 15 students thought first hour was the most difficult out of a total of 75 students. There's a total of 295 students in the whole class, and so X would go above that. And if we solve this proportion, that will tell us how many students think first hour is the most difficult. So we have 15 times 295 gives us 4,425, and then equals 75x. So then finally, to solve that, you would divide both sides by 75, and you would get x equals 59 students. So we would predict that 59 students would think that first hour is the most difficult. So there you have some examples of how to use proportions to make predictions.